Hey everybody, we're the Epistemologers here today, and our topic is the coming economy and impressions of sort of what's been happening. We've been kind of paying attention over the last couple of days, or at least Azaris has, and I'm gonna listen to him explain to me what's going on in the economy, because I've kind of been out of it.
Well, do you mean something that just happened, like over the past couple of days?
No, your general.
Things happen every day.
Well, your general impression. See, and this is in part all as well. I like the idea and the word of impression because it's very non-committal, and and you know, we want to. It's good to sort of dig through the muck and come up with some initial ideas of what's happening.
Yeah, I use the word impression when I talk about the constraint cycle, because you have to work with a bunch of ideas that you're not sure of,
right? And
you're trying to become more familiar with them, and you're trying to immerse yourself in them. And a lot of times, you're taking an impression from everything you know, like all of your background information, every possible idea that seems to gel well with your worldview. And maybe it's possible for you to dive into a different worldview than you're normally familiar with, and you get impressions in there. And a lot of times you'll take the same world event and get the different impression using different worldviews. And just being able to do that is a really good skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I like about the word, like I said, it's non-committal. Anyway, you're going to give me your impressions on the economy, and because you said something very interesting about how you think that, for instance, we're heading towards a dip that's very, very significant, like next Great Depression, right? They'll make the 08 recession look like nothing.
Yeah, so that's going to get real personal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're watching this for a long, long time, many, many years. There's a lot of signs to watch for.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit confusing because the economy is like this big feedback loop of opinion. And so if everyone's opinions are great, then the economy does well. And if the economy does well, then everyone's opinions are great.
Yeah.
And if the economy, so if anything hiccups and throws a wrench into that feedback loop, it might break it. And then people's opinions sour. And then the economy sours, and then so on and so forth.
Well,
and so you get these like ups and downs based on everyone.
There's this sort of impression economy that happens, but there's also underlying money thing where Trump's done great for the economy because he's given a great impression of America, of how our overall market is doing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't describe or explain. Like, he can come in and he's bombastic, but really not a lot has really changed in... We've gotten tariffs, which have been deals, but it hasn't been enough time for those tariffs to really take it into full effect. That will be another year or so.
Well, a lot of the stepping stones, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't fully know how they plan to transition at this current economy to the next, but there's going to have to be a transition because the debt is coming due.
Yes.
And we have all of our money.
We have more than $20 trillion of debt.
Concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the main problem is that debt as money accrues interest over time, and that is on top of the money that's in circulation. So whenever someone needs money on account, they can actually create that as debt, but over time the interest accrues beyond the money that's already in existence. So what happens if someone's debt comes due and they just don't have the money? Well, they could create more money and give them the new loan
to pay off the old loan,
pay off the old debt, but then more interest is coming due. If you look at it like as a big picture, not a cent of the interest ever gets paid off system-wide. So it's really only the principle that you have enough money to pay off anywhere in the system. Now, on your account, you can pay off your debts, but it just shunts it over to somebody else. It's like musical chairs.
Right.
So the central banks are a key feature of that because they basically end up with the positive end of it, and they just soak up all of that economic energy over time. So this is actually a system that everyone in the know who set this up and watches it very carefully understands that it can only go so far because it's not a sustainable system. It's not designed to be.
Right.
It's designed to extract as much economic energy from people and their emotional energy as possible and capitalize on that. And then from there, try to build either an empire or something else before the whole thing collapses. They will typically crush an economic bubble at a particular time for various reasons.
When it's advantageous.
When it's advantageous to them, they have a narrative to go along with it, what's to blame for it, and but in a lot of ways that it could be used as a weapon. The economy can be exploited to damage an industry or to damage a particular country or something else. So the system is basically just reaching the end of its lifespan, its natural lifespan. And so we have to transition off to something else. And the people who know more about this than I do recommend hard assets, like real assets, which is why precious metals always comes into the picture. And that's why you hear a lot about that right now.
People like their precious metals, yeah.
Yeah, but new asset classes are emerging in the financial technology like cryptocurrency and things which I do consider a real asset because it isn't dead and because it is scarce, if not made to be scarce. So, I mean, it is made to be scarce, so it ends up being something that people cannot just willy-nilly just get their hands on. You actually have to trade for it or mine for it.
Right.
And yeah, so it's designed to be something that can be traded, exchanged, or commoditized. I think that a lot of these cryptocurrencies are going to end up being classified as currency. Right. So maybe we won't see capital gains taxes on
selling it.
On selling it, maybe that'd be nice. But we are seeing some movement towards more positive regulation in this regard. We'd like to see a lot more, but it really does depend on the plan and the intent of the powers that be on transitioning over to viable alternative.
To an alternative.
A viable alternative.
But you came out with a figure that I found was pretty shocking, and so let's talk a little bit about not shocking, but I found interesting. But let's talk a little bit about what you think is going to happen with what your impression is for the general downturn. How, when, we kind of got why it's going to downturn. Because it's part of this natural
We
process.
always try to find out what to expect.
Yeah.
See, I'm moving through an area that has like a bad connection here, so I apologize. But
that's all right.
Or explanation.
Oh.
Good explanations will. Do I need to wait? Can you hear me? Okay, I think I'm past that connection problem. So what I was saying was, I think that when we have or come across an explanation, we'll discover that the explanation accounts for things we have yet to experience. These are what are called predictions, and we want to take good explanations seriously to the point where we expect those predictions to happen, knowing that they're fallible. They might not happen. The explanation might turn out to be a bad explanation, and the predictions they make might be bad and all that. But it doesn't matter because we just have expectations that can guide us, at least tentatively. And we hope that they are more informed. So that's why we want to answer the question of what's going to happen with the economy. What do we expect with that? Well, I mean, I only have my explanations of how this is going to go and the impressions that I get from everywhere. And I'm not an expert in this, but if you want to know, my impression is that sometime by late 2019 and early 2020 or so, we'll see a dramatic downturn in one way to measure it would be the stock market. And the stock market is probably not the best way of measuring it, but it is a way that is popular. We could see something like 50% declines or more. The IMF is now calling this out as a potential for a second Great Depression, and I don't think that's something to dismiss, if only because we do know that the economy is on its last legs, and you can tell that by how well it's doing right now.
Well, wait. Explain that. I don't really follow what you mean. So the economy's on its last legs.
Remember what I was saying about the feedback loop?
Sure. Yeah.
The feedback loop. Well, our stewards, bless their hearts, they want to encourage good emotion.
Yeah.
In the lead up to this. Sure. So what they're going to use their tools and the reports that they issue to show the good side as much as possible. And right now they have really, really good tools to make the economy look amazing at one level. But the best way to really get a feel for how well the economy is doing is to just look around you.
Yeah.
Look at the department stores closing, the various huge national retail chains closing, the various huge malls closing, the bankruptcies, the corruption, the scandals, the CEOs resigning, the all kinds of things are all rumbles of an economy that is very different at street level than
on paper.
What you would see on paper, yeah. So that's what I mean is it looks incredible on paper, and that's actually a sign that things are not the way that they actually are. They're trying to string the whole system along for as long as possible while the Fed raises rates intermittently. So they're just going to keep coasting on the rate raising from here on out until the whole thing collapses.
And just keep on raising rates and rates higher and higher and higher until it just collapses?
Yeah, because they would flatline right after the 2008 crisis.
And for the entirety of Obama's term, they were at flatline, pretty much. There was like a couple months, like the last quarter of the last year of Obama's term. Because if they did try to raise rates, that thing would create too much friction on the economy and start souring people's opinions again and start throwing the whole thing is very fragile. Yeah.
Very, very sensitive to people's feelings.
Yep.
People they stake a lot of their resources in the economy, and they care very deeply if it does well or not.
Right.
So, and money moves on people's emotions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So you can expect that the appearance will be great, just as we approach something not so great.
Yeah, kind of like the 08 crash again. It looked great the couple months right before the crash. Everything was fantastic.
Yeah. But that's really the important thing behind good explanation in general, is that they give you the sight into what's happening that that appearances don't give you. You can often see a good explanation account for appearances but tell you totally different story than what you would get by face value. And that's because your experiences are not self-explanatory in principle. That's why. But explanations are, by definition. So that's why explanation is so important, and that's why we keep belaboring it in every video.
Yeah, it's true. So I think that pretty much sums up your views on. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about with in terms of the?
Oh man, well, I mean, there's so much to talk about in terms of the economy and making predictions on that.
Sure.
But I mean, we're just entering a new, almost uncharted territory. Uncharted for everyone alive today, as far as I know. It's very exciting and scary, and it's going to be very interesting. Potentially, a lot of opportunity for great wealth. If you put your wealth into the right asset classes, you stand to benefit
quite a
more
bit.
than anything. But I think the main thing is that you don't want to hold on to debt, because especially variable rate debt, because variable rate debt during this kind of thing just skyrockets.
Yeah, and by debt you mean
going way more than expected.
And by debt you mean the U.S. dollar or any other fiat currency. Is that correct?
Like a mortgage is better if it's fixed rate.
Yeah.
You'd want to see if you can get a fixed rate mortgage, if at all possible.
Yeah.
You don't want a variable rate mortgage, because that's how the housing crisis started putting people out of their homes, homeless.
Yeah.
So the housing situation is very similar, only probably worse right now. And the reason why it's 10 years later, because derivatives come due in 10 years, is my understanding.
That's interesting.
So,
I didn't know that.
So that's why we expect that's common. I think it's in general.
I understand that, but I didn't know that derivatives last for 10 years. I'll be damned.
But that's where I'm getting my prediction on 2019. Why late 2019 when it could be now? I wish I had a better answer. It does take time to. Yeah, I think that's the main thing is that you kind of wait for everything to start imploding, and I think we're going to start seeing like certain institutions going down. I think there's going to be big booms throughout 2019 as a consequence of the economy shuttering. And it's going to be a very interesting and rocky 2019, and I think that by the end of that, we might actually see some people getting back up on their feet. So you'll want to be warned. Yeah, but sounds exciting. I think in the end, if we help each other and we share as much of our individual knowledge with each other and collaborate on solving problems and always working towards better explanations just together, we're going to make it not only through it, but thrive. And become way more than we used to be as a civilization. Way more.
I hope so. I think that warrants another video eventually, but I think we're kind of out of time, so we're gonna say fare thee well and subscribe and do your liking thing and comment. Explain what you think about the economy, what your impressions are of the economy. That would be really nice to see, just so that we can get more impressions and we can kind of, compile them. That'd be fun. Anyway, fare thee well.